I'm Nick Offerman. A 9-year-old boy was staying with his grandmother for a few days. He'd been playing outside with some other kids when he comes into the house looking confused and asks, "Grandma, what's it called when two people sleep in the same room and one is on top of the other?" She's a bit taken aback, but decides to tell the truth. "Well, dear, it's called sexual intercourse." "Oh, okay," the kid says, and he goes back outside to play. A few minutes later, he comes back in, and this time he's angry and embarrassed, and he says, "Grandma, it's not called sexual intercourse, it's called bunk beds, and Jimmy's mom wants to talk to you." A man named Marty Seidman told that joke. Now, he did not write that joke, and he didn't perform it in a movie or on TV or on the radio. He's not a comedian, he's not a writer or an actor either. He was a greensman, Local 44, and at 98, he's an 11-year resident of the Fund's campus who spreads joy and smiles to everybody who lives and works there. How? We'll get to that. Keep your pants on. Marty had no intention of getting into showbiz. He was born and raised in Philadelphia. He got married in 1933, moved to Jersey in 36, and he lived there until 1962 when he decided to try his hand out west. When he arrived in Hollywood, Marty was like many of us were on our first days here. He was just a guy looking for a job. Now, like I said, Marty wasn't looking at any particular field, much less showbiz, but he had heard about prop work and thought it might be fun. So he met with a guy at Local 44 to see about it. They didn't need anybody in props, but there was a show in need of a greensman. Marty says, "I don't know what that is, but sure." So the guy at Local 44 takes him out, buys him a tool belt, a saw, a hammer, a few other tools, and voila, Marty's in showbiz. And just like many of us did at our first Hollywood job, he faked it until he made it. He got up to speed fast, he loved the work. He kept busy on numerous features and big television series like Gilligan's Island. Remember those 3 palm trees that they moved around for every scene? That was Marty. And for the next 20-odd years, Marty made a solid living for himself and his family. Retirement was the furthest thing from his mind when in the mid-'80s he went to Cedars-Sinai for a checkup. Turns out he needed an operation. It was routine, it was no big deal, but the next thing he knew, it was months later, and he was in a hospital recovering from a massive infection. He couldn't work and his health was steadily deteriorating. His wife was taking great care of him, but the burden on her was taxing. Years passed with little improvement, and in March of 2001, Marty's wife died, leaving him with no means of support or care. He needed somewhere to go, and that's when the Fund found a place for him at their long-term care facility. Marty was broken at this point, both physically and emotionally. Without a wife or a home, he didn't want to live anymore. Bed-ridden, his health continued to deteriorate. He had given up, resigned himself to death. He scoffed when physicians at the long-term care facility ordered a course of physical therapy. He was beyond skeptical that he'd get back on his feet, but he tried it. Marty only walked about 10 feet that day, 5 feet from the bed and 5 feet back. But he kept it up, and soon 10 feet became 10 more, and 10 more became 10 minutes. His health began to stabilize, and before he knew it, he wanted more time. He negotiated 15 minutes, then 20. Pretty soon, he began doing it all on his own or with other patients. He felt better and better, his depression began to subside, and when he felt he was ready to leave, he applied to leave the long-term care facility in favor of permanent residency at the MPTF. He would have to pass a physical exam to prove he could care for himself, which he did, and eventually he was taking his walks in the shadows of the palm trees that dot the grounds of the Woodland Hills campus. His own mood improving, Marty started visiting with patients back at the hospital every Monday, telling jokes to lighten spirits. It made him feel better to make them feel better, so he decided to up the ante. Marty started walking to the local farmer's market to buy flowers and pass them out to the female patients and the ladies of the hospital staff that cared for him. Clearly, this is not a purely selfless act, mind you. Marty gets more than a few kisses for his efforts. In fact, he liked the kisses so much, he was blowing a small fortune on flowers at the farmer's market every weekend. But before he could go broke, Marty negotiated a deal with the woman at the market. He offered her $10 for 3 dozen flowers. She did him one better. She said she'd sell him all of her unsold flowers at the end of the day. The first batch was 14 dozen. Turned out to be a very good deal for all concerned. Today, at 98 years old, Marty walks 10 miles every morning with friends, with staff, with whomever he can convince to join him. And every Monday, like clockwork, he travels the campus with his walker brimming with bouquets of flowers and bundles of printed jokes. Marty delivers flowers to as many ladies as he can. His route includes not only the patients and the nursing staff, but the residents and the MPTF administration as well. Marty's visits are dearly anticipated, and he's received... The guy knows what he's doing. He's received with smiles wherever he goes on his journey that began with 10 steps across a hospital room in 2001. 50 years ago, the entertainment industry took a skinny wiseacre from the East Coast with a new tool belt and a yearning to work. Whether they knew it or not, they made an investment in him, and he in them. Before anyone knew it, a lifetime later, that investment is paid off in a way that no one could imagine. Marty got a new start. He got a reason to live, and he paid it right back with flowers in exchange for smiles and kisses, reaping benefits of that seed they planted together so many years ago. Now tonight, it's our turn to give flowers to Marty, and thanks for the happiness he brings to people every week. And I have a beautiful lady who's going to help me out with that, in that yellow jacket that I mentioned. Let's hear it for Marty Seidman, everybody.